All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Detailed Downtime Tracking with P2 Merrick. I'm Jake Kalinowski, and I will be hosting today's session. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and we will email the recording to everyone on today's call. Your line will be muted during the presentation, so if you have a question, please type it into the chat box at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. The panelists will address these at the end of the presentation. We don't anticipate any issues, but if we happen upon a technical glitch and the webinar ends, please try logging back into the session. Now, I'd like to pass things over to our presenters to introduce themselves and get us started. Over to you, Kim.
Hey, thanks, Jacob. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So a little bit about me. I'm a product manager here at P2. I've been involved with the Merrick suite of products for over 15 years, with a number of those years being an experienced end user. My Merrick career began in the back office. I then moved to the field, worked as a field operator for a number of years, and then from there I joined the IT side of the business, administering the Merrick applications, supporting an end user base of around 400 users. And then in 2009, I went to work for Merrick on the vendor side. And I'll hand it over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Kim. I'm David Grisanti. I'm a senior solutions consultant with P2, and I handle demos and RFPs for a few of our software solutions. My career started as a field engineer out in the Permian Basin, and I've been working in the software space with P2 for about 6 years, and specifically with the Merrick suite for most of that time. I'll pass it to you, Josh.
Thanks, David. I'm Josh Ranson. I'm a senior solutions consultant. I've got about 20 years experience in implementing data analytics and production solutions, both in Asia Pacific and the US. And I spent the last 16 years with P2. So during today's session, we'll be discussing the importance of downtime, and we'll also share with you the results of our recent analysis study into how a subset of our current clients record downtime. With those results in mind, we'll offer you some recommendations about how current Merrick users may be able to improve the accuracy and efficiency of their downtime entry, along with some information about how you can start performing analysis on your downtime in a number of different formats. Our first presenter today will be Kim Gatrell. So Kim, over to you.
Thanks, Josh. So what does detailed downtime tracking provide? Well, in today's market, it's even more critical to know when a well is down and why it's down. So low oil prices, they've significantly diminished profit margins. Downtime equals lost production, which in turn equals lost profits. So the first step in reducing downtime requires reliable downtime tracking. And detailed downtime tracking, what does it provide? Detailed tracking of the reasons why a well is down for any period of time provides valuable time-sensitive insight into necessary remediation measures. This insight is valuable to an operator in their decision-making to get their wells back onto production faster. Knowing the planned and unplanned downtime based on trends and good data can help identify where operational inefficiencies may exist. And over time, it can also provide operations personnel awareness around trends that may be occurring for a specific well or groups of similar wells or similar pieces of equipment. And optimal downtime tracking is a great tool in the reduction of unplanned downtime, which will drive profitability and operational efficiency. And with that, I will hand it over to Josh to review the results of our recent study. And don't forget, as we step through the presentation, if you come up with questions, remember to submit those in the chat panel, and we'll go over those at the end of the session.
Great, thanks, Kim. So now we'll take a look at the findings of our recent downtime study and dig a little deeper into what we found. Some of you may have already seen some of this information in a recent blog post that Clara Fuge completed. So for this study, we took a random sample of 20 different operators, and we used the last 3 months of data that was available, and that formed the data set that we used. And the study was completed on March 23rd. The operators also come from a really wide range of areas, and that was really to ensure that we had a good representation of all operational conditions. So when we look at the companies within the study and the size of those, we can see that the majority of them ranged through a range of 150 to 2,000 wells. The median size within the companies of the operation was about 500 to 1,000, and there was 12 companies within that range. And if we looked at the locations of these companies, we can see that there was a wide spread. So there were 7 clients in Permian, 3 in Eagleford, 3 in Haynesville, and then a spread of companies across the other major basins. And that again means we have a good wide spread of operating conditions. So the first thing we analysed was the split of downtime as planned versus unplanned. And within the study, we found that 6 companies had around 10 to 25% of their downtime within the unplanned codes. A further 8 companies had between 25 and 50% of their downtime as unplanned. And the remaining 6 companies had well over 50% of their downtime as unplanned. So being able to capture the type of downtime is important, as unplanned downtimes offer a great opportunity to reduce your downtimes and potentially get back some of that lost production. After looking at the split of downtime by type, we moved into looking at how companies utilize downtime codes within their organization. So with regards to the number of downtime codes, the majority of operators use between 10 to 20 downtime codes. We had one company that actually only used 2 downtime codes for every downtime event that they captured. Only 6 companies took advantage of the parent-child code functionality within Merrick. This makes managing code simpler, and David will provide some more information on this concept later in the session. With regards to the downtime type, of the companies in the study, only one clearly defined them as specifically planned or unplanned types. For the remainder of the companies, it was a really manual process for us to go through and determine which codes were planned versus unplanned from within the study. And lastly, we looked at the use of what we call generic codes. So 17 companies had generic codes used within their downtime. And for nearly all of those companies, that was the most used code, and it accounted for the most downtime. Many companies also had multiple instances of those generic codes, and they include things like other C comment and no code entered. Drilling down into those generic codes, we found that generally it's hard to perform analysis on downtime that's recorded against those generic codes, and that became more evident when we looked closer. So 5 companies had between 10 and 25% of their downtime recorded against those generic codes. 8 companies had more than 25% of their downtime against them. And 2 companies had well over 50% of their downtime recorded against generics. So that means that for those companies, the only way to accurately dig deeper into downtime is to spend time looking through hundreds or even thousands of comments to try and work out, what happened with these downtime events. So what does this actually mean? So for the example, we took one of those 2 companies that recorded the majority of their downtime with generic codes. And the company had around 800 wells and had 86% of their overall downtime to no code entered. So taking into account the 3 months of data and estimating the deferred production over that period, we found that it came to 75,000 barrels of oil and 520,000 MCF just for that 3-month period. And that's a large amount of lost production that's essentially due to unknown causes. So what can companies do to better record and analyse their downtime? Now I'll pass over to David Grisanti, and he'll provide some advice on best practices within P2 Merrick. David, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Let's take a look at a couple of examples of downtime tracking and how we can improve the experience. Now, before we get into it, the example specifically, I just want to highlight a couple downtime recommendations, or a few downtime recommendations. The first one is consistency. We want to use the same methodology like parent-child or major-minor categories, setting codes as planned or unplanned within our divisions to ease cross-training and really ease rolled-up reporting, make rolled-up reporting easier for our management. Next, specificity. So we want to avoid general codes. Really, from the code selected, can anyone work out what's wrong and how to fix it? Lastly, we want to ensure the codes are simple, so they're clear and easy for operators to quickly capture accurately. Now we're going to jump into field operator. And here I'm going to drill down to a well and capture some downtime. What we're looking at here is a bad example. And in this case, we're using a demo database I have. So I'm not blaming anyone else but myself for this bad example. But you can see the users selecting from a list of codes. And whether they're doing this in the field or in the office, we can see a very long and inconsistent list here that I'm scrolling through. So it's hard to find what you want. It looks like there's multiple of the same or similar options, and that's not specific. Here you can see 4 related to weather. This could possibly happen if you're acquiring properties from another company, if you're inheriting their downtime codes that have been modified over the years. Without cleaning that up, there's going to be inconsistencies and there's going to be similarities that make the results difficult to navigate. So now we're going to jump into a good example, and here we have a cleaned up data set. So it's very similar to how P2 delivers the software out of the box. And again, I'm drilling down to a well capturing downtime here, and you can see the cleaned up list and the nesting that it incorporates. So we're selecting a parent category here, and then from there we'll drill down to the child. That enables users to find the specifics of what they're looking for quickly without needing a bunch of institutional knowledge to pick the right code from a list of 100 or more. The selection here is specific, so I know that, in this case, I'm entering a downtime on road weather conditions. I know I need to check roads for washouts tomorrow because weather came through, and the selection is also simple. There aren't 5 different weather-related codes. Now, one way to improve upon this even more is to add metadata detail. We'll do that in ProCount. Here's an example of a pick list screen. So we're looking at downtime well pick list in ProCount. And this may be similar to what many of you see in your instances of ProCount. One important piece of missing information is detail around whether that downtime is planned or unplanned. And that's what that highlighted red box that's missing data there, that's what that is. So on the next slide, we can see I've added this detail. So I can see the is planned field as a column over in the grid view on the left. I can also see that detail within the form itself. And this detail is going to be very useful as a filter for reporting. You'll see that in a few minutes. This detail is also already in your database, even if you don't have it configured on your screen right now. So using that existing information, you can inherit the work that P2 has already done. It's basically a freebie simply by adding a metadata field. And I actually created a step-by-step guide that you can use to complete that on your own. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use our detail field and we're going to create a new parent category and move a child downtime from the generic other category into our more specific new parent category. So here I'm creating the new category. I'm calling it surface, and I'm defining it as a parent as opposed to child planned or unplanned. I'm defining it as a parent there. Now this gives me the power to be consistent with my downtime categorization, modifying parent and child codes as a ProCount user to make them exactly what I want. Once I've completed that, I can assign the child code away from other to my new surface category and give our users something more specific to select from when they're capturing downtime. So here we see it rolls up to surface now. Now, as I select within the daily downtime grid, I can see I choose surface and I have a limited number of options, one of those being wellhead problems, the one I just changed from other to surface. So I can see that detail here within the screen. Adding that planned and unplanned detail as a definable attribute, that's going to make your analysis life easier as well, won't it, Josh? Hey, Josh, you might be on mute.
Thanks, David. Thanks for saving me on that one. If you've got a sound downtime capture process, it's going to allow you to more easily perform more detailed analysis on how you can look to get back some of those unplanned production losses by identifying and then acting on downtime trends. So with a well-defined process, you can perform analysis in a number of ways. And so one of the first places you may go to do that is Carte. So if we open Carte, within this view, most of you will be familiar with the wells down screen. And what that screen does is it lets you look at any of those downtime events that have happened on a selected day. or it can show you the most recent downtime event for every well, or you can see the downtime events between a time range. So that screen's pretty handy in terms of giving you the starting points to do some analysis on your downtime. As with what David said, with some slight changes to the configuration in the back end, you can start to add more information to make it more advantageous to finding things. So in this example here, we've got the downtime type, or the planned and unplanned, coming in with all of our downtime events that are happening. And then you can also look to add groupings that you want to group by. So in this case, we're using area, field, and route. And that's going to give you more access to some of those data points and leverage off some of those configuration changes. The other thing you can do within this tool is create yourself a Carte view, looking more focused at downtime. So in this example here, I've created a chart of our downtime hours. And if I stack that chart now, I can go and see and do some analysis around what's happening. So looking at my company operated level, I can see each of those child levels and what they're doing in terms of the downtime hours. So if you see a large spike in those hours, you can start to drill down, click on that object and interrogate and get more details around that. So just by creating some views in Carte and adding some additional data, you can start to really expand what you can do with the downtime that you're capturing. P2 also offers a downtime analysis dashboard as part of the field operator with route surveillance package. So what we can do now is take a look at a couple of examples of those dashboards, and those dashboards will let you filter and drill down through the downtime. And we're going to look at two examples, one being an example of downtime that's not well defined, and we'll look at what you can do with that, versus a downtime set that's well defined, and show you the difference between how you can do that and those analysis activities. So within the route surveillance package, clicking on the downtime analysis screen lets you interrogate via a hierarchy and look at categorizations and groupings of your downtime. So here we're looking at all the child downtime information along with our type and our codes. So this example, you can see the first thing that stands out is we don't have a well-defined set of planned versus unplanned codes. So everything is just being default set to unplanned. So that's going to make your analysis more difficult. The next real standout in this example is if you look at the downtime codes that are being referenced, 83% of the downtime is being recorded against other C comment. So there's no real way to get more information around what those are. The only way you can really do that is by filtering down to see those, and then going well by well to go and interrogate and see what the comments are as to why that piece of equipment's offline. So it's going to make that process a lot more difficult in terms of trying to work out where your issues are in the field. If we switch to a clean example with good definition, I again filter down to my all wells level. You can see we're capturing the split of planned versus unplanned downtime. And we've got clearly defined codes that let us very quickly see what's happening in terms of where our downtime is being recorded. In this example, paraffin scale seems to be a large contributor, so I can click on that and filter down. And then that gives me some options to do more analysis. I can see the wells that make up those downtimes. And then I can also drill down and get more details here around how does this month compare to historic values. So if I'm looking at June in this example, how does my paraffin scale compare to the previous month or to the previous 6 months in terms of what's the average over that period of time? And then historically, what have I done month over month? So you get a real indication of, am I doing better this month or am I doing worse this month? Again, once you've refined your selections, you can drill down and see the specific details of that well. And here you can see we've got paraffin scale, salt scale build up on this well, and that's the reason it's down. So just by adding that additional metadata and being clear and precise in the way that you're recording these things, you can really do some quick and easy analysis. The last example we'll look at today is really trying to give you some options with the tools that you already have available to you today. So one of the options you've got within Carte is to export data out and then do some analysis in Excel. So in this example, what I can do is I can come into the tool and I can go to the start of this year and I can view all of the downtime records that have happened at the company operated level over that period of time. So I've got 4,600 odd records here. I can right click and export that into Excel. And then once I've got that in Excel, I can select my data set that I've exported, and then I can insert a pivot table into Excel to start doing some analysis. And that'll just insert into a new tab. From there, what you can start to do is the basics of the analysis. So I can take my downtime hours and use that as a value so I can see the sum of my total downtime hours. And then with the enhancements we added to that wells down view, I can now group by area if I want to do it that way, and I can now group by route as well. And then finally, I may put in the downtime reason. So I can see a breakdown by area, by route, and by code where my downtime is being recorded. The next option you can do is around looking at timeframes. So you can very quickly insert a timeline into this pivot table. And what that'll let you do is filter using the date to be able to look at certain periods of time, be it an individual month or a period that you can select on the fly. And again, it's just letting you filter down and see what's happening over time with your downtime. Additionally, if you want to be more precise around what you're looking at, you can add in things like filtering. So you can take your planned and unplanned as a filter and apply that filter to say, just show me just the unplanned codes. And adding to that, you can also add in a slicer into this pivot table, which will allow you to pick the individual codes that you want to look at. So in this case, you can say, I just want to see electrical or compressor, or you can then have a pick list of multiple codes that you're looking at. And all of that together is going to give you some quick and easy ways to go and start that process of doing better analysis on your downtime. So as you can see, if you have consistent, specific, simple codes, then you can quickly begin detailed analysis in a number of different platforms. Once you have the process of downtime capture streamlined, then you can start to build on the level of analysis that you perform. Being able to pick up trends in downtime for certain wells or regions is going to let you move towards preemptive monitoring of wells based on the logic that you've identified. And you can use systems such as our route surveillance tool that can help you reduce the overall downtime by detecting conditions earlier or even before they occur, if you can get that logic. With that, Kim, is there anything you'd like to provide some observations about today's session?
Yeah, thank you, Josh. So as you all have seen today, detailed downtime tracking is a vital part of any operation. Accurately capturing the details of any downtime will aid in the ability to perform analysis and provide that vital insight into any required remediation actions. More detailed downtime recording can also make the process of identifying trends in equipment or locations simpler. And it can allow you to reduce events, resulting in the ability to bring wells back online and back into production more quickly. Making the process of downtime capture simple and consistent will make things easier for the field to accurately record the details. And specific codes will also make the analysis process easier and help to quickly identify the required actions. All of this combined can help drive profitability and operational efficiency, which has never been more important. And with that, Jacob, I'll hand it over to you as this wraps up our presentation. We can now review questions that's been pre-submitted and any that's come in through the chat window.
Great, Kim, thanks. Now we will go through the pre-submitted questions first, followed by any questions that have come in through the chat. Again, if you would like to submit a question at this time, you may submit it via the chat panel at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. So our first one is, does the latest entry, either through field operator or pro count, overwrite any previous entries?
Yeah, so I'll take that. So if you've got a downtime that's already been submitted to the database and an operator or back office user finds that it's incorrect and they change it, the answer is yes, it will overwrite. As always, we've got places to enter commentary, collaboration through field operator, or even in pro count. So if something is changed, it's always encouraged that, somebody leave a paper trail through the comments.
Thanks, Kim. How do you bring economic and production data together?
It sounds like one I can probably take. Within the route surveillance package, one of the concepts around that is the ability to connect into additional data. So you could connect in that system to the economic system and bring in that data and mesh it together with your Merrick and other data within the route surveillance package.
Thanks, Josh. Downtime planning for future planned events.
Yeah, Jacob, I'll speak to that. So we really don't have a mechanism today for handling any planning for future planned downtime events.
Okay. I'm interested on what are the main reasons for well production downtime and how Merrick makes an impact on data and help prevent loss of time.
Okay, that's probably me as well. So as you saw, what we really found was most people made too much use of those generic codes. And as we said, nearly every customer we looked at, that was their most used code. So really one of the biggest ways you can have an impact is to make those codes used as little as possible. So again, making it simple for the guys to capture really specific information. So that's probably the biggest learning that we got out of that downtime study.
Okay, I will now move over to the questions in the chat. The first one is, how do I clean up generic codes and get to a state similar to what's been presented today?
Hey, this is David. So cleaning up generic codes, you could tackle it a couple different ways. You could go in and clean up your historic information, but maybe an easier way to do that, save a little bit of time, would just be inactivating your old codes up to today, and then implementing a new set of codes from today going forward that have that relationship that you want, the parent-child, the planned and unplanned, as you want it, and just using those going forward, with the other ones being available historically but inactivated for future use.
What are some of the best practices around coding downtime if I'm automatically importing from SCADA?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. So we do have some customers doing this today. When data is coming in through SCADA related to downtime, typically there is a code that is created to identify those automatically created records, and then either whether you're using field operator even or from the back office, you can easily see which records need to have an actual downtime reason put in. And then you can always look at exceptions via reports through Carte or another reporting means.
Thanks, Kim. How can we set up the parent and child downtime? This person is saying they do not have the option for planned and unplanned.
Hey there, this is David again. So that level of detail would be available in the database, and then anybody who has access to the metadata configuration utility would be a person who could add that level of detail to their downtime forms that an end user sees in ProCount. So once you add that detail to the downtime form in ProCount, then you can see whether downtime category is classified as a parent or as a planned or unplanned child that rolls up to a parent. and once that's all set up there in ProCount, you could reclassify your codes and have them roll up to different parents and things like that. Anything else to add from our team on that one?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Dave, you do have a document on that configuration piece that will be shared. And parent-child, that can be used with even or field operator, ProCount. I mean, all of the applications utilize that functionality. Anything to add to that, Josh?
No, I think there's a follow-up to that around whether they can do that in the pick list editor. But yeah, once those configuration changes are there, it's just going to be a part of that pick list editor where you can update the codes from that interface.
Right.
Okay, our next question. Is there any way to capture downtime more granularly? For example, 2 hours in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. We often have two types of downtime in one day.
Yeah, so I'll take that. We do have the ability to do 2 downtime captures in a day, but we cannot currently do more than 2 downtime captures.
Is there a connection between well tracking and lease module for SI or other payment obligations?
So I might be able to add a little detail on that. Looks like connection between well tracking and lease module, probably for shut-in, I imagine is what they're asking about. And within the Merrick suite itself, there's not any, I wouldn't say any out-of-the-box connections to, any sort of lease modules. One thing that our customers, as any customer knows, we have customers that are on, one of 3 or 4 different P2 accounting solutions, or 5 other ones, and those might have a lease module, or they might be using a specific land solution that's different than our accounting solution. I might suggest the person who asked this question look into our P2 workflow solution. That actually spans the different applications and databases. And we actually set up a proof of concept between P2 Land and Merrick within our workflow solution at one point in time to raise downtime to land analysts so they could see it and then check on their leases and lease obligations and other wells on the lease where that well is down. So I'd suggest looking into that. Anything else to add, Tim or Josh?
Yeah, you can do some of that monitoring in the route surveillance package. So you could keep an eye on your production over the month just to make sure that you can detect if there's going to be any shut-in payments coming up.
Okay, our next question. What version of ProCount, even, or Carte is the parent-child code available in?
So I'll take that, and it's been available for a very long time. Goes back many moons ago. I don't know the exact releases, but if you're anywhere somewhat current, you would have that functionality. And if you want to send us your versioning, we can absolutely confirm. But again, it's been around for eons.
Okay. Are there any off-the-shelf child parent that operators could implement from the start and expand upon?
David, that sounds like you.
Yeah, could you repeat that one again, Jake? I think that one just went to marketing. I didn't see it.
Are there any off-the-shelf child and parent that operators could implement from the start and expand upon?
Yeah, absolutely. P2 delivers a list of downtime codes, and they're already set up with, child and parent, planned and unplanned. So if nothing else, you could take sort of our standard delivery of downtime codes and implement those into your system.
Thanks, David. Do we have any options currently or on the horizon to apply a specific downtime reason to all or specific wells within a route at one time?
So I'll answer that. So that is something that we do have on our list that we'd like to make available, but right now there is not a way to just apply downtime for an entire route to all wells or group of wells.
Okay. Under the pick list editor, or is this something you have to do? I think that was
Yeah, that was the one I addressed earlier. Yeah, I saw
Right.
that come through just as we were answering that question.
Okay, well, I think that's all the questions we have in the chat. If there are any more questions, you may submit them now. A minute or two. Okay, well, I think that is all the questions we have for today. If you're interested in learning more or have any further questions, please reach out using the information on the screen you see now, and we'll be happy to help you further. We will be sending a follow-up email as part of this webinar, and we'd like to thank everyone for your participation today, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.